Now, Friday was the last day of Robert Gibbs, and Robert Gibbs is just seriously. Robert Gibbs. What can be said? Why don't we let Robert Gibbs speak for himself?
I'm certainly not been a lawyer. Mike, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a smoker. I'm not a smoker. I don't know Scottish law. Now, I'm not a climate scientist. I'm not an active participant in the talks. I'm not a law enforcement official. I think that was, as I said, I don't, I'm not a Chinese historian. I'm not in editorial meetings at CNN. I'm not an expert in the classification process. I'm not a scientist on this. I'm not a spokesperson for BP. Look, I'm not a lawyer.
And neither am I.
Right. Besides not being a classification expert, I'm not a sentencing, I'm not a judge familiar with sentencing guidelines or an attorney. I'm not a document veracity person. I am not a legal scholar, Ben. I'm not a judge or have a legal degree. Again, I'm not a parliamentarian. I'm not a parliamentarian, Jake. I'm not a parliamentarian. I'm not a vote counter on Capitol Hill. I'm not a budget expert major because I'm not the Speaker of the House. I'm not an economist. I'm not nearly as young and hip as, yes.
Clearly.
I'm not a cynical person. I'm not the budget director. I'm not an insurance company broker. I'm not a member of the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. I'm not a member of the committee. I'm not a good person to tell you when spring ends or when it begins. Go on The View to talk about whatever the hosts on The View ask the President of the United States. I don't doubt that I'm not a regular watcher. I'm not a health IT expert. I'm not a health IT expert, so I apologize. I'm not a member of the House. I'm not so good at math. I'm not good at math. That's why I'm here. I'm not in like the Department of Math. I'm not a journalist, and I play the spokesman on TV. And I'm not running for anything in the White House Correspondents Association. I'm not the special master on press questions. You guys can ask what you want. I know I'm not an economist. I'm not part of the negotiating team up here. Wow. I'm not a public health spokesman. I'm not a contracts lawyer. I happen to also not be a constitutional lawyer, mostly because I'm not a lawyer at all.
Just a few things that Robert Gibbs
I don't know what
not.
he's going to do, because what is he?
Well, he's not a scientist.
I know that.
Okay, he's not a lawyer.
Well, I think we could just
He's not a Chinese historian.
May I just say, I think we could sum it up with, he wasn't good at his job.
Yeah. Or any other job that you can think of, apparently.
Well, he can't be a document veracity person. I mean, he's already said he's not one. He can't be a vote counter. He's not a mathematician.
Can't be a health IT expert, that's for sure.
He's not a...
I've never heard anything like. You know what that reminds me of? Remember, you used to say this all the time. Look, I'm not a document veracity, expert, but I am a thinker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was a joke.
Yes,
that was a joke. This guy was doing it.
He used
seriously.
it as a crutch every day, almost every day.
That was his entire way of avoiding questions. Yeah. Our joke.
Yeah. Look, I'm not.
Which makes him up.
Yeah, I mean, he did not say anything, though, about the fact that he was... he didn't say he wasn't a worker at IHOP. He didn't say he wasn't a street sweeper.
So I guess he could do that.
He could. There's a lot of things he did leave himself open to.
Yeah.
And I think we will likely find him.
He never said,
to
my knowledge, he's an NFL quarterback. I'm not an NFL quarterback.
So
maybe he could do that.
Hired.
That's open to him. So
could certainly be hired. The Arizona Cardinals are looking.
They're looking.
They're happy to take Robert Gibbs at this point.
And he needs a gig.
Is he a quarterback?
I don't think he is a quarterback.
Well, he didn't say he wasn't one.
He didn't say he wasn't.
Okay.
So he may be.
All right. Astronaut?
I don't think he said.
No. See, there's a lot of.
I don't think so.
Well, that's the most interesting resume I've ever seen of anyone. Just say, oh, these are the things I'm not. So...
Yet he didn't include the one
I mean,
we know.
think of that. That is the greatest excuse in your job. Think about that as an excuse for your job. Hey, Stu, did you get that printed for me? I asked you to print that about an hour ago.
I am not a printing expert. Nor a IT expert, but I can look into that for you.
Can you just ask somebody else to do that?
I'm not a conversational expert. I'm not a communications expert. I'm not a telecommunications expert. so I could not. I could not
do
that, but I can look into it for you further.
Well, but I need you to. I need to have that information here.
Well, I'm not an information expert. I'm not someone who
can
deals.
you imagine? That's what this guy did.
That's
all the time.
That's what he did for a living.
Yep.
It's like, you know.
Anytime it got tough, that's what he turned to.
You imagine having someone seriously say those things to you in a work situation. You're the boss, because that's what the press is, the link, supposedly, to the boss. They're not doing their job, but the boss is you. And so the press is supposed to stand there as a representative of the boss and say, what the hell was the president doing? Now imagine that in a work scenario where the boss calls you in and you go, you know, let me tell you something. I'm not a Fruit Loop expert, okay? And why were you late this morning? I mean, I'm not a Fruit Loop expert.
I didn't invent the clock.
Yeah, and, you know, I didn't.
I'm not a clockmaker.
I am not an expert on the trains, okay? I'm not.
I'm not a conductor.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, you just say. And notice how he elevates it a lot of times too. Like it's ultra specific. Like he should be able to comment on the implementation of a specific thing in the healthcare platform that his president ran on.
But
yet
no,
instead he says health IT expert. Like anyone expects him to be that.
But you know what you see what he's doing? He's humiliating. He's using Saul Alinsky tactics. He is isolating you and humiliating you. And he's mocking you. He's turning you into a joke for even asking. Look, I'm not a medical IT expert, okay, you dope. Yeah, I know. I know you're not.
And we lost him. I'm going to miss him. That's why. That's exactly why I'm going to miss him. We lost him. We lost him.
What if this new guy is competent?
Yeah.
What if this new guy can do his job? What if he's what if he is a health IT expert? He might be one.
And a Chinese historian.
He might be a document veracity expert.
Wow.
Then we're screwed.
No, it's the Obama administration. There's no chance to get somebody qualified for the job.
Fair point.